Thank you for that very, very warm welcome. What a privilege it is to be here. I would like to tell you a story. 23 years in office admin and management and production at the BBC. I was working in children's programmes, in CBeebies, and then my world fell apart when 11 years ago I was facing redundancy and I had no idea what I was going to do. All the options were either going to cost a fortune to start a business, take me years to retrain, weren't going to be flexible to fit around a family, and weren't going to earn me enough money. And I saw an advert. I chickened out of answering it. I was too scared to even pick up the phone. I hadn't done a CV for 23 years. Thank goodness my friend picked up the phone and invited me to her first product launch. I fell in love with all the products, and I remember going to Michelle Pointer, who was her sponsor, and saying, "I just have one of those boxes, please. I'm never doing the business. I'm never standing in front of anyone. And I'm never talking to anyone. I'm not building a team. I just wanted the products." Why? Because I had no confidence. I didn't think I could do this. So 2 weeks later, Michelle invited me to a success day. 11 years ago today, this was my very first success day. I listened to all the testimonials. I started the morning, arms crossed, thinking, why is everyone so happy? Why are they kissing and hugging each other? This is work. It was a bit weird. But by the end of the afternoon, I was clapping and I was crying, and I'd just fallen in love with it all. I don't remember the detail of all the testimonials that I heard, but I just remember the belief and the stories that they gave me. But there was one testimonial I do remember. It was the last testimonial of the day. It was a lady called Dorothy Wood. Some of you will know her. She was Jane Leach's mum, sadly no longer with us. And her energy, her shoes, her dancing, her personality, and her huge achievement. She was on stage for Sapphire Manager. And I absolutely loved her, and she just gave me huge belief, even though I didn't know her. I was inspired by her personality alone, even though we've got very different backgrounds. I went home so excited, and a few months later I went to a networking skills training, which is the old version of the First Steps to Manager training. And 2 weeks later, I was a supervisor, and I've now realised I haven't got my clicker. So that's the first thing that's going to go wrong today. So there you go, the only thing that's going to go wrong. So there you go. So I went, got to supervisor. I actually retailed my way to supervisor. It took me a year to get to assistant manager, and 20 months to get to manager. Why was it so long? Because I struggled with making calls, I struggled with rejection, and I struggled with this up here, mindset. I still struggle with it and have to work on it all the time, even now. And I didn't follow the cycle. You've heard that so much today. And when I followed the cycle, everything, absolutely everything changed. But all the way through, I've kept going to business presentations and trainings and success days. I think I've missed 3 of these in 11 years. And all of these, I listen. Even now, I hardly ever leave my seat because I'm still making notes. I'm listening to everybody's stories, their top tips. I cling on to their stories to gather those light bulb moments. Your story is so powerful to other people. So it took me 7 years to get to senior manager and 8 years to get to soaring. And along the way, I can't believe I'm going to say that I have achieved Car Plan and 100 Club and Global Rally and Chairman's Bonus and so much more, which is just amazing. Thank you. It's not been easy, but it's been my journey. And I'm still learning and I'm still growing, and I am still that green and growing as Bob talks about. And I blooming love this company, and I love everything it stands for, especially the products. I'm head to toe aloe vera, but most importantly, the people are absolutely amazing that you come across. So I've just shared a story with you. It's probably around about 5 minutes, but it's not appropriate to use that in every situation. I've shared so much now because it's part of what we do when we do a training. And I wanted to share with all of you, whether you're a guest, whether you're a brand new FBO, or whether you're somebody who's stuck or struggling, which we all have happened to us at times, that everyone has got a different journey, and they're not in a straight line. Your journey will look like a plate of spaghetti, I can assure you. But stories are what that makes the world go around. We paint pictures. Just like in the Marks and Spencers and Sainsbury's and John Lewis adverts on television, which I think are fantastic, they are telling you a story so that you get an emotional connection with it. But even better than all of those is our Forever advert, which I think is absolutely fantastic. So, why are you going to have a powerful story? Why do you need to have a powerful story? Because you're going to be sharing this story with other people so that they can think, oh, that's like me. Maybe I can do this. You're going to be painting pictures in people's minds. They're going to imagine their journey. You know, we've been looking at universities for our son. We've looked at 7 all in all, and in each case, it wasn't the facts and the figures of those universities that sold that university to us, but the students and the lecturers that shared with passion their journey of being at that university, or their passion for the courses that they were going to be teaching. And they are the ones that brought those universities to life. So you see how important your story is. You're also going to use it during your business career with Forever. And I'm going to go over that in a minute, because you're going to use that at different times. But we do it to help to inspire people, to help them believe that they can do this. I didn't believe I could do this. Listening to other people's stories was absolutely vital for me. I guess it's something that Andy Waring calls social proofing. People have to get proof and identity that they're similar. You're also going to use your story to make an effective phone call and start that whole business building process, which is, I guess, what we're all here for. Do you know people are going to buy stories before they buy stuff? People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And before people buy from you, they have to buy into you. If people like you, they'll listen to you. But if they trust you, they'll do business with you. However, you don't have time to share a 5 to 10 minute story of your life with the people that you want to have a look at forever. They don't actually care about you, they care about them and how it could help them. They need to see themselves being able to do this because you've painted them a really good picture. So it's really important to learn how to have a brief, powerful story. How are you actually going to do that? Well, what's really important is that you have a structure. You can't just waffle, otherwise you'll lose your audience. So you need to think about what your background was, what you did before Forever, what your challenge was, why you were looking at it, the solution, I'm going to go through these in a minute, and how you feel about the future. Now, what's really important is 1, 2, and 3 never change because they're in the past. Your background is what your background was your challenge, and your solution you're already in Forever. So I think it's really important to get that really tight and then think about that last one. And I think it's really important not to expand that the more successful that you get. Because remember, it's not about you, it's about them. And they need to be able to identify with you and what you're saying. So beware the me monster, as Tom Barrett talks about, because we can all I know I can get very excited about, the journey and Forever and what's happened, and I have to kind of tone that down. Remember, it's not about what I've achieved, it's about how I can help them. There is a brilliant example in the First Steps to Manager training. These slides are on Forever Knowledge, but I'm just going to quickly read it through. So your background, somebody's background. I run my own childcare business, which is very successful, but the income is good. How many people do you know that have got their own business with a great income, but they've got a challenge because the hours are long and it's very stressful with so much paperwork and red tape? So many people can fit into that criteria. Solution, through a friend, came across a dynamic global brand which offers not only much greater potential, but also time flexibility and the option to travel with them. How many people do you know who are looking for time freedom, time flexibility? And I'm so excited about what I've found, that for the first time in many years, I feel my future is secure. So many people are looking for a secure future. So this is really, really powerful. So how are we going to actually do this? First of all, you need to write it out. This is so important, I can't tell you. Please do not miss this bit out. I did, and that's why my story used to be so much longer. You really need to write it down because you're going to help to identify the irrelevant information for the audience. So this is when you're putting together your 60 to 90 second story. You'll have longer versions, obviously. So there are some things that are not going to be appropriate. You can just say, I'm a mum, and then that covers all the mums that you're talking to. You then need to time it. Really, really important. Once you've got that basic structure, that you time it and you practice it. Your basic story needs to be 60 to 90 seconds maximum, otherwise it becomes a bit too much. Now, there are times when obviously we tell longer stories, like here, and there'll be other occasions when you'll maybe share a slightly longer story, and there'll be times when you'll shrink it really down to a very quick story, maybe if you're in a lift with somebody or just a very quick conversation. But if you've got a fundamental 60 to 90 second story, then you can either shrink it or expand it as it's appropriate. And then you need to practice it and practice it and practice it. In the car on the way to the BP, not if I've got a guest with me, but even now on the car to the way to the BP, every week I still practice my story to make sure that it's still punchy and short and to time. And I learnt that from going on a speaker training with Maureen Bloom. So, these trainings are really, really helpful. You're going to learn so much from them. Remember, you're looking to put as many me toos in there as you possibly can. Because the point of that good story is not to stroke your ego, but to help that recipient think, that's like me, I can do this. And then you also need to smile as well. Now, I've got some examples of some strong words here for you. Obviously, you need to pick the words that are appropriate to you, in your sort of language. But here are some examples of some strong words. Exciting, inspiring, fantastic, amazing, dynamic company, and potential. How I can now see how, ... So there's some really, really good strong words there for you. And here are some maybe not so strong words. I'll just let you read them. Few sniggers going on. Anybody else had anthraquinones in their stories and tried to get polysaccharides in? The ones of you who are laughing is because you've done it yourself. I think I've probably put all of those words into stories, and certainly talking about products in the past is not really appropriate. So, when are you going to use your story? Because it's not just about being at a success day and doing a testimonial. And to be honest, that's why I didn't bother putting together a proper story, because I had no intentions of doing my story at a success day. I used to hide at the back for supervisor, assistant manager, I got away without having to do it. It wasn't until I got to 100 Club that I actually had to share my testimonial. So I didn't bother writing my story out because I didn't think that it was ever going to be appropriate. So you're going to use it conversationally with friends and family. That's going to be a very short story, and it needs to be quite calm. Around the dining table at Christmas, that kind of thing. And it might be something like, well, I'm facing redundancy. I've got no idea what I'm going to do, but I've come across this brilliant company, and I can fit it in alongside work, and I'm actually really excited. So that can be something quite calm. You're also going to use your story when you're making calls. Again, this needs to be quite short, but if you've practiced it, and you've listened to them, and you know about them, then you can pick out the relevant bits that are appropriate to the listener. So if you're a mum, and they're a mum, or if maybe they're facing redundancy and so on. If you're speaking to a business person, you can tailor it that way, and just make it appropriate. Also, when you're out contact marketing, you're going to use your story there. Again, this needs to be very short and conversational. If you know the structure, you'll be able to pull out the relevant things, remembering those 4 key points. In a private message on Facebook, again, keep it very brief, not a great big whole long paragraph. That written word is very, very different to the spoken word, so you must check it out loud by reading it and put some punctuation in. I've done some chronic fake Facebook messages to people that I've just written everything, and because I've got a background as a secretary, I used to type it all out, and it sounded great, and it just was awful when I read it back. So really, really important to keep it as a conversation there. How about networking groups? For those of you that go to business networking groups, now sometimes you're only given 45 seconds, sometimes 60. So you've got to have a really strong story that doesn't overrun. And it may be that you might talk about the product, so it's really good to have a really good compliant product story as well. And you'll also need a very, very short business version for when you shake hands with somebody and they say, what do you do? What I would encourage you to do is speak to your sponsor or upline if they've been to networking groups and ask them to give you some advice, because it's slightly different how you'll share your story here. And then, of course, during the one-to-one, when showing people some information, again, you're going to tailor it to the recipient, because it's not about you, it's about drawing on the parts of that person that are similar, thinking about the me toos. And then the business presentation when sharing your testimonial. So this needs to be a practiced 60 to 90 second testimonial. Remember, if there are 5 people doing testimonials at a business presentation and everyone takes 3 minutes instead of 1 minute, then suddenly, the business presentation is overrunning by 10 minutes. But again, this needs to be something that is really rehearsed if you are going to be doing a testimonial to BP. Something that if we ring you at 3 o'clock in the morning, you'll be able to reel it off the top of your head. Because the audience are thinking, can I do this? Do I believe them? Is this something for me? So practice in the car on the way to the BP. I'd recommend you go to a BP regularly. We don't say that just to fill the room with bums on seats. It's for your benefit. You've heard it before today. And it's a free training. You'll learn phrases. You'll learn so much about Forever, and you'll get belief. I learnt so much going to that BP every single week at Milton Keynes before I moved down to Sussex. You'll hear from different stories over and over, maybe up to 5 different testimonials a week. And you're then going to be able to share your story outside of the business presentation with potential business owners and say, do you know what, I was at a presentation the other day and there was somebody, a man or a lady there like you, with similar background or a similar challenge. This is what happened to them. It's the same with your product testimonials. You share them to help others. You're just sharing stories. So I thought what I would do is just show you my 60 to 90 second presentation testimonial that I do at a BP now. You heard the longer one earlier, and you've heard some shorter versions. And so this is my business presentation one. And they all follow the structure of that background, challenge, solution, and future. So 23 years in office admin and management at the BBC, and I was facing redundancy, and I had no idea what I was going to do, because all the solutions were either going to cost me a fortune to start a business, take me years to retrain, weren't going to be flexible to fit around the family, and weren't going to earn me enough money. And I had no idea what I was going to do. I came across Forever, didn't know if I could do it, but because of the wonderful structure that the company had put in place, the hand-holding, the training and support, I plugged into the really simple system, and now, 11 years on, life is very different. It really has delivered everything it promises and so much more. The things that we've achieved have been fantastic, but for me it's been about the time freedom. I haven't had to put my son into after-school club or holiday club for 11 years. Mind you, he's 18, he wouldn't go anyway now. When my mum needs me, I'm able to drop everything to be with her. When Paul's parents needed him, he was able to drop everything to be with them, and next week as well. And for me, those things, you can't put a price on those things. So the reason I've done that is to share with you, how many people do you know that have had a long career at the same place or industry? How many people do you know that have, had some of those similar challenges? Because there are so many people out there with similar challenges and backgrounds. I've kind of designed my story, obviously it's the truth because it's what happened, but to appeal to lots of people in the audience. Who do you know is fed up with having to negotiate Christmas and holidays, who don't want to put their children into after-school club? Nearly every mum's going to identify with that. I say I came across Forever through a friend. It doesn't matter at a business presentation that I joined at a launch. I may share that at a launch or in a sizzle, but that bit's irrelevant at a one-to-one or a business presentation. How many people do you know have got elderly parents or who like travel and want that freedom and flexibility? So many of the audience are going to be feeling at least one or two of those things. My testimonial is not for the other business owners in the room. I don't change it every week. I used to until I learned how to do it properly, but I don't change it every week to keep them interested. I don't care if they're bored of hearing my jokes. The guest has never heard my story, and it's for them to identify with what I'm saying to help them see that they too could do this as well. You'll notice that I don't mention Rex, the turnover, selling aloe vera, the length of the time Forever has been trading, or the number of countries. That information is not my story. That's a fact about the business. I guess it's Rex's story. So the place for that is at the first stage of information, the one-to-one, and again at the business presentation. I'm just sharing why I'm doing this and the challenges that I had and the reasons that I got involved to help them see that they could do it, because I'm just a normal person. I know that's debatable, Paul. This is my husband over there laughing. You need to be comfortable and relaxed with the words, and that only comes from practicing and refining it, and that written word and spoken word are very different. So you do need to say it out loud and practice it over and over again. Practice it on your family and friends. Ring your sponsor. Practice it on your sponsor or your upline as well. It's important not to make things up or to try and big up the ending. Your story is enough. Your story is your story. And my story only became powerful when I went on a speaker training with Maddie French about 5 years ago, where she made us all write it down. So thank you to Maddie for that. But also by timing it, I thought my story was 1 minute, but it was creeping to 4 to 5 minutes long because I just got so excited and got carried away. That's why I still practice it every week on the way to the BP. So I would encourage you all to volunteer to do a testimonial at a BP. As long as it's been practiced, it's short, it's punchy, and it's effective. It doesn't matter if you've only been in for ever a short while, because the guest is going to identify with that as well because you're new. And at our BP, we choose a variety of people to do testimonials with different backgrounds and challenges so that we can appeal to more people. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Actually, there are people in my team. One of them's in the audience. She has no idea this is about to happen. So you can see how their journey can fit these criteria. So Olga, she's a mum and she works in a casino, but her challenge is she works nights, opposite shifts to her husband, who also works at the casino, so they don't get very much time with their son. The solution is, through Forever, she could see that this was very flexible and she could fit it around work and it could give her a good income potential. And so she's really excited about the future. She hasn't been in Forever long, that in the future she's going to be able to help her husband go part-time and leave, and they're going to get that more family time together. How many people do you know have got similar backgrounds to that? So another one, Tom, he's a teacher, absolutely loves what he does, hasn't got a family, loves what he does though, with a passion. He had some health challenges, so his challenge was that he was concerned about his health, but also pension. How many people do you know that are worried about their pension? Solution, through Forever, he could see that this was very flexible, it's very ethical, he could fit it alongside his full-time job, and that the future is that he's going to still be able to help people through teaching, through coaching, through Forever. Obviously his health has been absolutely amazing now, but it's also going to give him the freedom and that extra income and pension. But I thought it would be really nice for you to have a live example, and so I wanted to invite one of my team on stage to share her wonderful story with you, so you can see how she's followed that example of background, challenge, solution, and how she feels about the future. So please give Jo Bialetti a huge welcome.
Jo Bialetti, and my background is in the hair and beauty industry. I owned my own hair salon for 7 years and I absolutely loved it, but towards the end I felt like the business owned me, and I was really restricted to the amount of time I could take off to go and travel the world, which has always been a huge dream of mine. When I came across Forever in 2013, I could see that if I put the time and effort in, I could build a really successful and flexible business that would allow me to travel the world and not lose any income. That's exactly what I've done, and last year I was able to sell my hair salon and still carry on hairdressing part-time as and when I wanted, because that really is my passion. This year I visited Barcelona, Cyprus, Ibiza, Japan, China, the Maldives, Belgium and Holland, and I've absolutely loved the freedom that I've been able to have working with Forever. I am so excited about the future and can't wait to see what I'm going to be able to tick off my bucket list in 2017. Thank you.
That is the first time she's ever spoken on stage at a Success Day. Well done, Jo. So proud of you. So when else are you going to use your story? Well, how about at a product launch? This can be the same as your business presentation testimonial, but briefer and maybe a little bit softer. You'll know your story inside out by now, so you'll be able to shorten it. And you know, I just realised last night when I was kind of rehearsing this that I still remember Michelle Pointer's testimonial that she did at that very first launch that I joined at, and I remember feeling what her story and resonated with me, and that I could maybe then do this business. It's so powerful. I still remember it 11 years on. Your story is so important. And how about retailing to customers? Customer trial pack, you take a customer trial pack round, or maybe doing it at a table event. Again, keep this quite brief and conversational. And you're going to find a way to get your story and challenges into the conversation. So sometimes if I'm doing a table sale, they might say, hello, or, how long have you been doing this? And I'll say, a bit different to 23 years at the BBC. It's a conversational starter. So, I was made redundant. Life changes when that happens to you. So that can be another way for you to talk about your story. So remembering those 4 bullet points of background, challenge, solution, and future. How about also at a sizzle or a training? At the start of every sizzle, we get everyone to go around the room and say their name and their background, or their name and their favourite product, or their name and their reason for joining the business. And we write it all up on a flip chart so that other people in the room think, oh, I know a solicitor or a graphic designer or a teacher or a mum or somebody who's been made redundant or hates commuting. I'll go and speak to them. So get your team to practice their story at sizzles, standing up at the front of the room to get them used to this kind of thing. I don't think I'll ever get used to this kind of thing, though. We're all very, very different with very, very different backgrounds and challenges and hopes. So always be thinking, how can I help the audience? It's not about my whole life story and all my challenges and my journey. It's about taking the appropriate things out for the audience. And then there's the Success Express testimonials. Again, they need to be brief and punchy and follow that structure that I've mentioned. Whenever I've had to do a testimonial at a success day, I've written it down and practiced it and timed it. And actually, the testimonials yesterday have been absolutely fantastic, absolutely brilliant. Because what it's doing is helping giving belief to the guest in the room. It helps give that new FBO belief that maybe they can do this. And if you're a brand new FBO wanting to be supervisor, you will have clung on to every single word those new supervisors said yesterday. Similarly, if you're aiming to get to manager, you'll be clinging on to those testimonials as well. So the point of your testimonial is to inspire people listening with their belief. Challenges are good, but I think maybe not all of the detail. And actually, yesterday's testimonials were absolutely brilliant and really, really appropriate. But quite often, sometimes they can be irrelevant to the people listening. So think about how you could inspire somebody. And also, the longer the testimonial, the fewer people that we get to hear from. And the power in these stories is hearing how different they all are. We all love a good story, don't we? Even as children, we love those good stories. Everyone loves that rags to riches or that failure to success story. But sometimes that can feel like a fairy tale to some of us. And I think what's really powerful is that challenge to the light at the end of the tunnel story. There are thousands of people out there living lives of quiet desperation, putting on a public face, but underneath and inside they're really struggling. Sharing your story calmly with dignity and integrity and empathy, and having that vision for yourself you may just be the light at the end of the tunnel for one of them too. In the early days, I felt embarrassed that I hadn't achieved success and I didn't think my story was worthwhile, and I thought I had to have a mega ending. But you don't. People want hope, not hype. They want to believe what you're saying and for it to feel achievable for them too. People buy people, and facts tell, but stories are going to sell. So you need to become a professional storyteller and borrow other people's stories. That's why we share them. The words you share at a BP or a training, or even on this stage here, may inspire somebody. You may even inspire another business owner in the queue for the loo. So share your stories. So in summary, write it down, have a structure, follow those 4 points. It's got to be punchy and brief. It's got to be 60 to 90 seconds. Then you can expand it when it's appropriate or shrink it where necessary. Because if your story is too long, people might switch off and your wonderful, wonderful story will have been wasted, which would be such a shame. So I'd like you to practice it and practice it and practice it. And then I'm going to ring you at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to say, right, go. And you're going to give me a 60 to 90 second story. And last of all, of course, you have to smile. So I hope that's inspired you to take the time to sit down and write out your story so that you can be that inspiration for somebody. You won't appeal to everyone, nobody does. However, you never know when you can be that inspiration for one person, that light at the end of their tunnel, and that's what this business is about. Ripples in a pond, helping one person at a time, having the vision that maybe, just maybe, they can do this. Never underestimate the power of your story to somebody else. So be a storyteller, go out there and make a difference. I wish you all a very happy Christmas, and may 2017 be your best year yet. Thank you very much.